Howdy, folks. John Wilson here on behalf of SOAR. We're going to let folks join. We had 78 register for the webinar. I don't know how many will join us, but I'm so delighted that that you have chosen to give a portion of your afternoon to spend with little old me, talking about SOAR and some of the things we've learned at SOAR and success across a lifetime. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes and what we can learn. So again, I'm going to give just a few minutes for folks to join, and then I will kickstart the presentation, the webinar. As always, if you have a question, throw it up in the chat box. If you or question, or raise your hand. If you would like to speak, you're welcome to. If you or if you'd rather type the question, you can do that. We will have a little bit of time at the end of this presentation to answer questions or even problem solve different scenarios that folks may have encountered or would like some advice about. When we do that, the forum is open for anyone to give thoughtful responses to things, because all of you have, are part of the continuum, part of the lifespan, and you may have some quality ideas and thoughts that I currently don't. So with that, let me get started. Again, those of you who this may be your first webinar with me, my name is John Wilson. The participants and the staff call me Big John. I've been at SOAR for going on 25, 26, 27 years. And I'm the SOAR's executive director. We are a high adventure camp, school, and gap year program serving kids specifically living with learning and attention challenges. And as such, we are delighted to be a part of your lives. I want to talk about ADHD across the spectrum and just share some thoughts. We understand that with these challenges, come some interesting issues. We are, and I am still quite impulsive, and I am reactive. I get easily distracted, and I also sometimes in my level of organization isn't like others. I can be disorganized, and all of us have some trouble, difficulty in completing tasks. And then, sometimes, we struggle to achieve goals and objectives. And those are some of the challenges that do, cause us difficulty in success across a lifespan. And so we're going to talk about how to mitigate some of those things and strategies to deal with those. If you've attended my webinars before, you understand how much SOAR has embraced the life success attributes that was developed from the Frostig Center, and we incorporate those attributes into all of our programming, because we are not a therapeutic program, and we're not at all therapeutic, but we are life growth focused. And so we discovered that so much of what we do is focused on these attributes, and these attributes were found by asking the question, what are the things that allow for individuals with learning and attention challenges to have success in the lifespan? And they were these. Okay. Self-awareness. When we are more self-aware about our strengths and our challenges, it allows us to develop compensatory strategies and to choose opportunities that focus on our abilities. All right. Individuals who learn how to be more proactive and respond appropriately and make choices about how they interact tend to be more successful. Those of us that have perseverance, there's a webinar on our series called Grit, how to nurture grit, and those of us that can nurture grit really find that we're able to kind of slog through some of the more difficult times in our lives, embrace the suck, as it will, and, find the gift and the challenge that is presented to us. Uh, Goal setting is another one of those things that is a learned ability that the more we practice it, the more we spend time doing it, the more we focus on how we, determine our goals, is critical. And then using our support systems to help us achieve those goals, to help us get through those difficult times. Ultimately, real success in the lifespan really does come when we have a healthy support network. And then finally, those emotional coping skills. And so, how I regulate my frustration, my anger, sometimes how I regulate my, my unmitigated joy about something, how I temper what I'm feeling so that I can be a little more resolved and even keeled. So, self-awareness, proactivity, perseverance, goal setting, developing healthy support networks, and then learning those important emotional coping skills are all critical. If you want to learn more about this, you just type in the Google machine, Frostig Life Success Attributes, and you're going to get some wonderful, wonderful information. All right, so what is the path to success, right? And that's why you're here. You're interested and you want to know some of the things that we can do that will allow us to be more successful. And so I've broken down into a couple categories. The first is, we just talked about it, support networks, and we're going to talk about it again. Why? Because they're that important. All right. Another one is making sure that we seek opportunities, that we continue to push and stress and stretch ourselves, because when we become stagnant, then we don't grow. Um, Also, structure. As an adult living with ADHD, if I've got structure, I thrive. If I don't create structure or chaos, I just sort of bounce around, and I don't get nearly as much done. And so by creating certain structures in place and putting them into my focus and the way that I handle my daily routine are really, really critical. And one of those areas where we need structure the most is, in nutrition and daily hygiene and sleep hygiene. And I'm going to talk about nutrition and sleep and exercise here in just a moment. Also critical life skills, and those are the ones that we just talked about, those emotional coping, those ability to problem solve and persevere, and understanding my strengths. And then finally, being able to self-advocate, because we really cannot move into adult and have success across a lifetime if we can't understand three critical things. The first is, this is what I'm good at. The second is, this is what I need to be successful. And then the third is, this is who I want to present to myself to the world. So last year my son started working, and we had a chance to do mock job interviews. And one of the areas of focus that we focused on were, how did he present? These are my attributes. These are the great things about me. This is what I require in order to be successful. This is why I can do good work for you. All right, so let's break into all of those and talk a little bit more about them. All right. So let's talk about support systems, because support systems are made up of, obviously your family, mentors that you identify that you really appreciate and want to learn from, your friends. And then in this day and age, as we're thinking about success across the lifespan, having a coach specifically related to your ADHD or learning disability could be really critical. And it could be a therapist. But as you think about how to best benefit from those support systems, you want to have all of those in place. And if the one you can't control is how involved your family is, unless you're doing things to help erode those relationships. But you can reach out and find mentors. You can find a therapist or a coach to work with you. And then there are very clear ways that we can support friendships and avoid the behaviors that erode friendships. Okay, so a big part of my idea about how we develop and grow and continue to have success is new experiences. All right. So we want to continue to thrive and seek opportunities that kind of challenge us. I think about it in these terms. If I have something to look forward to, or I'm looking forward to learning something, or there's a new experience on the horizon, it drives some passion for me. It drives interest. I become more engaged. And so, I want, I encourage all of us to find ways that we stretch beyond our comfort zone. All right. I also know that when I ignite or really look for things that ignite my curiosity, I benefit from them. Explore lots of different possibilities. Every weekend or every day you have off is an opportunity to try something new or different. It helps me gain clarity about what matters to me and what I love and what I appreciate. And then finally, once I've got some experiences, they help me know, do I want to learn more about this? Does this help give me direction? And I can move forward with purpose. Right. So as we're talking about this roadmap to growth, right? Because we're, you know, every experience we have creates a memory, and those memories are the fabric that weave the tapestry of our lives. It is not the new Oculus Quest 2 virtual headset that I just got. It's not the new Xbox game that I got. It's the experiences that I have with additional people and that enrich my life. All right, so the first thing that I want folks to do is I'm going to ask you right now to just take a second to think about this in your own terms, because if you can do these things for yourself, then you can support others on their road, on their lifespan to try and create success. So think about this in your terms of your your strengths. What are your strengths? Give me three. Just think about three strengths that you possess. If you want to throw them in the chat bar, I would love to see folks be willing to share. Think about three things that you know are your strengths. One of my strengths is doing things like this, connecting and talking with people like you. Another one of my strengths is I do love to explore new possibilities. Right now, I am looking, and I'm so looking forward to this summer because I'm going to get back to doing some primitive skill instruction with kids, and I love doing that. I love being on the water. And then the last one is I'm really good at nurturing people. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. I love to see some of these wonderful strengths. Okay, um, so the next thing that we do is we have to really kind of take some self-examination about what our values are. I really love nurturing young people when we do some sort of life development things and we talk about values clarification. We have an activity at SOAR that's called Stand for Something, and the way that activity works is we get into this little square that's these 4x4 posts in a square, and you get onto the square and you say, I stand for, and it could be, I stand for human rights. I stand for, putting an end to hunger. I stand for, things that really matter to you. And those things that really matter to you point to what your values are. And so really helping understand the things that are of value to you. I've had a kid stand up and say, I stand for being able to grow up and make as much money as possible. That is a value. And so understanding what your values are and how you approach life is really important, because we've been talking about seeking those new opportunities, and by seeking opportunities, once we know what our strengths are and we understand our values, and then now we're seeking ways that we can develop experiences that will help us nurture and grow, right? And so by doing that, growth happens when you stretch. And and so anytime we're doing something, if we're working within our comfort level, we are not growing, we are not stretching. Because when you stretch, what that creates is it creates something called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is really important because it means that I'm not over stressed out, but there's just enough stress that I'm at that sort of really heightened place where all my senses are working to the best of their ability. You know what I'm talking about. Think of a moment when you're kind of in flow, or you're experiencing something and you're a little stressed or stretched out, and those moments give you some clarity that help you develop new coping skills. The whole model of outdoor adventure experiences has been that we're going to take you out of your comfort zone. We're going to give you these new experiences. You're going to experience cognitive dissonance, and then your old patterns and strategies aren't going to work anymore. And instead, we're going to help you develop some new coping skills, because when you develop these new coping skills, those coping skills are what are going to lead to success across a lifetime, whether it's how you manage frustration, or how you solve a problem, or how you overcome an area of a particular challenge, or how you learn to do something new. Those things matter. And then and so as you learn to solve those problems, what then that creates is an opportunity to think, okay, I solved that problem using those skills. Can I apply that to other situations? Now, I've just given you the SOAR model, and what we call here is the metaphoric transfer of learning. But that's how we learn as human beings, is that we develop coping skills, we solve problems, we have success, and then we think to ourselves, oh, okay, I was able to fix that. I was able to solve that problem. Perhaps I can apply that to a new opportunity. And when you do that, what you create is maturity through experience. And when you continue to seek new opportunities and stretch those comfort zones and develop those coping mechanisms, you begin to experience success in a way that is remarkable and different than if you just do the same thing over and over every day. And let's face it, right? I've got an 18-year-old at home, and his idea of growth is trying a new video game. We work really hard to create different opportunities for him, and he embraces those opportunities. But left to his own devices, he would hardly leave his room, and there is no growth in that. There is no opportunity there for him. I heard a kid at SOAR once say, "Sure, your comfort zone is a nice place to be, but nothing grows there." And I love that quote. All right. So how do we seek the structure that allows us to continue to grow? Because in addition to seeking opportunities, creating structure is a critical part of what we're trying to accomplish. Well, think about from a leisure and recreation standpoint. Don't just do what you've always done on a weekend. Plan something for the weekend. What's your next trip going to be? Plan a trip. Plan something that you're excited about. And then also, seek local opportunities. Figure out what is available in your area that you've never tried or done before. From a work or internship, define your abilities. Look at what internships might be available. Try new things, because through volunteering and also working, you can begin to get a sense of what you want to do. And one of the beautiful things about internships or volunteerships or work is that they create timeframes in which you have to be at a certain place at a certain time, which is so incredibly important as you're developing structure in your life. All right, volunteer opportunities. I've just listed a few here: the animal shelter, youth organizations, Habitat for Humanity. But when you're trying to achieve success across a lifetime, one of the absolute core ingredients to that is by living for something bigger than just yourself. We just recently celebrated Martin Luther King Day. And one of my favorite Martin Luther King quotes is, "It doesn't take a college education to serve. It doesn't take money to serve. It just takes a heart filled with, oh no, I've forgotten it. A heart filled with goodness and the ability to be willing to give your time." And then specialty classes. One of the things that my son and I are going to do is we're going to go do a knife making, how to forge a knife from scratch. Online classes. I think anyone who hasn't taken a first aid class should take a first aid class. They're a lot of fun, and they are experiential in nature. The really good ones, by the way, if they like the outdoors and they get something called the wilderness first aid class, the way they teach those classes is they give you a scenario, you do the scenario like you're trying to diagnose something, and then you come back and you learn how to do those things. They're very experiential in nature. So continuing to educate yourself is just critically important. And when you combine all those things, when you think about what you want to do from a leisure and recreation standpoint in a healthy way, when you provide yourself with a work or internship, you choose to dedicate a portion of your life to volunteering and serving others, and then you continue to find ways to be a lifelong learner. Those things help create success across the lifespan. All right, so let's talk about some of the major components of those things. We've talked a little bit about those life skills, and we'll talk a little bit more about them here in just a moment. But right now I want to talk about self-care, because self-care is one of the areas where people could do the most. It's the easiest place to do the best work. What we put in our bodies matters, all right? And so, if we are making a choice to eat healthy food, we're going to feel better. How much sleep we get matters more than any of us want to admit. And if you're only sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night, then you are not meeting your needs. And when you are younger, that takes a toll on your body. You can recover more quickly, but eventually there are important biological things that aren't happening in your body that are going to impact you over the lifespan. Are you getting enough exercise? You see, because ultimately, if you were to really be thoughtful and say, okay, these are the things I need in order to be the best version of myself. All right, so here we go. I'm going to ask you guys to do it again. In the chat box, list 3 things that you need in order to be the best version of yourself. How many hours of sleep? Do you need do you need exercise or some contemplative way to to kind of physically engage with the world? Are there things that you would eliminate from your diet that aren't going to make you the best version of you? I am a huge fan of fried food. I will tell you that every time I eat it, I feel like dog do. I feel awful. I just do. And I always ask myself, God, why did I do that? I get all phlegmy and I feel gross and lethargic. And if I really want to be the best version of myself, well, then I'm going to eat, I'm going to eat things that help nurture that for me. I'm going to come take a look here at the chat and see what a couple folks wrote. Okay, good. Folks note. And I'm going to talk about sleep for just a second. Does anyone know, and I'll give you a chance to tap this in the chat bar. Does anyone know the ideal temperature for best sleep? All right, 65. That's a little cold. You're close though. All right, from my research, it's 68 degrees. That's right. It's 68 degrees creates just the perfect kind of sleep temperature to sleep. I'm going to share another really wonderful thing. I'm in the outdoor industry, but there are 2 things that I've given in other webinars, but I think they're worth repeating. The first is, if your circadian rhythms are all out of whack, the best way to reset them? Go camping. All right, because when you go camping, you get tired. 2 or 3 days of camping, and you're ready to kind of reset your body, your circadian rhythms. And the other thing about being in the outdoors, and again, this is just my personal opinion, but there's something about feeling connected to the world that allows me to feel kind of the best version of myself. From leisure and recreation, just I am like so many of you that that my version of leisure and recreation, if unabated, is to just go downstairs and watch TV. However, that isn't what meets my needs. That doesn't help me be the best version of who I am. And so someone said today at lunch, "Where's John?" And if anyone wants to know where John is, typically, go ahead, Brittany, tell them, where's John usually?
On the river.
All right, so I'm going to find my way to get my canoe on a river somewhere. Doing a leather project, crafting, doing something where I'm actually engaged in the world, and that always makes me a better version of myself. And then I've already made a pretty strong case for working community involvement. All right. Um, uh, Here are some of the common challenges that we face, right? Executive functioning is a real challenge. And, and so when we nurture our executive function, when we give ourselves opportunities, and by the way, executive functioning is like a muscle. You can exercise it and try and develop some of those components, but you can also develop compensatory strategies. I have something in my hand right now that can act as my executive function in a remarkable way. Are you ready? Dun, dun, dun. This phone here does a really remarkable job of telling me where I need to be, when I need to be there, how I'm doing on my task list, who I need to connect with. And if I use it appropriately, rather than just have my nose in it all the time, then it can really kind of support that. If we find ways to be more organized, well, that leads to helping us be better able to manage our time. And if we can manage our time better, then then we have time to give ourselves personal maintenance, whether it's going for a walk or writing in a journal, or taking just a few minutes to practice some type of tai chi or yoga or whatever it is. And if we do that, then and we are taking the best care of ourselves, then our social interactions can improve. And there are very specific things that we can do from a social interaction standpoint. One of the greatest challenges for a lot of our participants is how to interact with others. And I'm guessing that some of that may be, that the apples aren't falling far from the tree. All right. And and so one of the ways that we encourage and nurture social interaction is to ask yourself, what does it mean to be a good friend? All right. How do you be a good friend to others? So let's go ahead. I'm going to throw that up in the chat box. Who's willing to share? Give me one or two strategies that make you a good friend to somebody. All right, let's see what pops up. All right, we've got one here. It says checking in with people. Oh, honesty, being available. I like that. Listening, being supportive. Yeah. All right. Now the one that matters to me the most, or what I believe makes you a good friend, trustworthy. I haven't seen it yet, and I'm going to give folks another 10 or 15 seconds to add anything. Right. So, cares. That's a good one. So when you think about how friendships are formed, right? Fun. Oh, I love that one. Thank you, Laura. When you think about how friendships are formed, they're formed in this capacity. People are drawn to other people who are drawn to the same things they like to do, right? So my son, who are his friends? They're the friends that like to game like he likes to game. My daughter, who are her friends? Her friends are the other the other dancers, or the squad on her cheerleading team, or the kids that she's met at church that she really kind of connects with, and they have a common interest. Now, those friendships, how do they get sustained? Well, the easiest way to sustain friendships is by doing something that for some of our kids is quite foreign, and that is being more focused on how are you doing, and acknowledging and asking and checking in with our friends. The people who matter to me the most are the ones who I'm going to get a text from every once in a while saying, "Hey, I was thinking about you. How you doing?" Not, "Hey, I need something from you." All right. It's not just enough to be, someone who's fun or cares. You have to convince me that I matter to you. And when we teach our kids across the lifespan on how to say those words, because sometimes they need to be practiced. How are you doing? Empathizing. Being there when it matters. Using reflective listening, finding opportunities to seek. A lot of times, some of us are really not very good at reaching out and asking for help. People love to give help. People love to be asked how they can be involved and given an opportunity to provide some nurture in your life. It has to be a two-way street, though. And so those social interactions are a huge, huge component of people who are happy across the lifespan. Because when they don't have that, it's either A, because they really struggle to kind of have those skills, but those skills can be practiced. And, one of the ways that we can do that is by talking with those people in our lives that matter, and then breaking down how those interactions went and what we can do to improve them. So a couple other areas that I'm going to revisit, and one of the things I'm a big fan of is the things that matter. We hit a couple different times. All right, social media. Social media across the lifespan has a really corruptive influence. I saw a I saw a funny meme on Facebook while I was watching social media, getting some insight about social media. It was these two dogs that were just growling at each other, and like there was a fence between them, and they act like they're going to attack each other, and then the fence opened up, and then they were left there facing each other with no barrier between them, and they were as docile as they could be. There was no barking, no just no conflict between them. And then the gate closed, and immediately they went back to just barking at each other. And I think about this in our political world. People posting politics on either side because no one's willing to listen. And from a social media standpoint, how we allow that to corrupt and influence our world versus engaging in real, honest, thoughtful conversations with people is going to matter. Here's one: basic vehicle maintenance. All right, how do you change a tire? Success across the lifespan allows you to manage difficult situations that come up in a way where you feel you can handle them. And so so that's a great example of something that you can do. Cooking and nutrition. All right, can you make a meal? Right now, my son is 18. It's his last semester of high school with us, and then he'll be moving on to what's next. His ability to cook is he can use a little ramen cooker and cook ramen in the microwave, and that's it. He can make a bowl of cereal. And so lately, we've been doing a couple key dishes. He's learned how to make scrambled eggs and eggs in a basket. He's learned how to make spaghetti. He's learned how to make a couple just basic dishes so that he can begin to take care of himself. And then we've talked about how he can make those meals more nutritious so that he can do the things that he needs to do. If I wanted to go a step further, I would actually give him a week where he would plan a menu, and then I would work with him each day to kind of make that food so that he can realize what that life skill really looks like. Conflict resolution. How we resolve conflicts matters. And one of the most important things about resolving conflicts is to find the ability to not continue to engage when I feel defensive, right? Because what happens when I'm triggered? Is that conversation going to go well for the two of us if both of us are triggered? We're going to be like those two dogs. And the idea of allowing us a little bit of space so that we can come back and use reflective listening and try and hear something from the other person's perspective is so critical. But if you find yourself talking at each other, you've lost the battle. Another important life skill across the lifespan is how do you manage a budget? All right, and so there are ways. We've been doing budget management for years through through allowances or through gifts, and then expecting you to manage and track your money appropriately. But if kids don't learn how to do budget management at home, then all of a sudden they're managing money. How are they supposed to do that? I also believe that taking a college class or even an online class on how to manage your own finances is just a critical way to think about how to have some success. Can think back and go ahead and put it in the share box. If you knew one thing now that you knew back when you were 18 or 19, and about to embark onto adulthood that would have changed you from from where you are today, and just in terms of budgeting or finances, what would it be? Any thoughts or ideas? All right. Investing. Start saving now. Save, save, save. Buy the best life insurance you can. Pay myself first. Yeah. You know what? I think, I would have started doing a Roth the moment I turned 18. And then, to find a way to put a couple $1,000s a year into that Roth, because if I'm going to survive, and I could use that for education, I could use that for any number of ways, right? And it cost me just next to nothing, but the time value of money, absolutely. All right, and then personal hygiene is the last one I want to talk about here, and that is, when um, uh, we know that sometimes our kids, as they are growing and moving into adulthood, uh, at some point some will start to care, and some point some never will. But the point is that it's so off-putting to others if you're the stinky kid, or you're the kid who always has oily hair, or you're the kid who has stains all over their clothes. And so understanding the importance, or you're the kid with bad breath because you never brush your teeth. Those personal hygiene pieces matter to the rest of the world. And when you indoctrinate yourself and you create those structures where you're going to say, I'm gonna wear clean underwear every day, instead of I'm gonna throw all my dirty clothes into a pile and just have a really dirty pile, a slightly questionable pile, and I only wore this once pile, right? And then people get dressed up, get dressed for the day by picking clothes off the floor. That doesn't work. That's not how you present the best version of yourself to the world. All right. And so, how do you learn to do that and ingrain that in your life? And the great thing about those kinds of life success across the lifespan is that when things become a habit, if you do something the same way for 21 days, they start to matter, and they start becoming ingrained. Brushing your teeth every day, twice a day. Um, don't forget to floss. Personal hygiene is a much less talked about, but altogether incredibly important component of being the best version of yourself. So when you put all those things together, you grow, you become more self-aware, you develop healthy problem-solving skills, and those are the ingredients that allow you to create a directional plan for your life. Because as you move forward, those are the things that you want. You want to seek opportunities that will help you grow. You want to develop self-awareness. You want to have problem-solving skills, and then you want to create a direction that allows you to be successful. I hope that I've given you some strategies that you can learn to employ and can incorporate into helping develop success across a lifespan. I'm going to open up the webinar now to questions. You can either put them in the chat box or ask the question in the question bar, or you can simply unmute and ask the question now. I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to tell you how much I am enjoying talking to all of you. Okay, so who would like to share something or ask a question? Okay, Al, go ahead.
Well, we were talking about the money. You asked the question, would we changed anything? I have some wishes, but I don't know if I would have changed anything because they were all learning experiences.
All right, that's a fair point. But wouldn't it be nice to learn those lessons a little sooner?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have a situation? How do you get the kid who doesn't want to focus on hygiene develop better habits in showering? Yeah, that's a really tough one, right? And it really depends on how old they are. And so if they are still younger, then it becomes a requirement. But if they are older and kind of moving into that adult range, part of it is helping them develop a plan. And it's so important that at the age of 18, I'm part of my own plan. And so sometimes a really honest conversation, about, hey, when you go to a job interview or you're hanging out with your friends, and you don't smell good because you didn't do a great job, in the shower, does that matter to you? I don't want to talk about that. Why do you always have to keep talking about that? All right. So I let it go. And then I'm going to have another conversation. I'm going to bring up another time. There's some things I want to talk about. And I want to help you be the best version of yourself. So what do you think helps you be the best version? I love that saying. How do I be the best version of myself? And then just ask the question. And it's okay to keep asking it and keep asking it and keep asking it, because eventually they're not. You cannot control how they shower or how often they shower for their lifespan, but you can keep asking the question and being really candid about what good choices could be. One of the things that I did not, I mentioned it briefly, but for young people who are really struggling and could really benefit from growing and learning, hiring a ADHD coach or some type of coach could be just an absolutely remarkable opportunity. And a coach would simply, the way they would handle that is they would ask telling questions about what matters to them, about how successful they are, about what works and what doesn't work, and they would center that around hygiene. So they would take that approach. Does anybody else who's on the call dealing with that have any thoughtful suggestions? Okay. Well, let's see. What does SOAR say to kids to convince them that there's life outside electronics and gaming, that they can be happy and should motivate to do other things and enjoy them? All right. I don't, we have a chance to do things through experience, but I'm going to do an exercise with you right now that is very telling. All right. And you can do this, try it with your kids. All right. If you're watching, and you have access to a pad and a note pen, if not, you can just do it in your brain. Close your eyes, or look down on a blank piece of paper, and I want you to draw in your mind or on the paper a place of healing and rejuvenation. Just go in your mind's eye and draw a place of healing and rejuvenation. Now, as you are thinking about that, you can go ahead and throw in the chat bar. What does it look like? Does it have sounds? Does it have a smell? What are you experiencing? All right. Now, what's interesting about this exercise is almost everybody, is going to draw an outdoor landscape. You mean you didn't draw your room with headphones on, staring at a computer, or you didn't draw a hospital? I'd set a place of healing, right? You're almost always going to draw an outside experience, and so knowing that, creating those opportunities for yourself matter. If your home is anything like my home, I'll say, okay, kids, we're gonna go for a hike and check something out. All right. And I'm gonna get, no, why do we have to do that? I didn't want to do that. I had plans today. What were your plans? Well, I was gonna meet, such and such on, in a chat room or whatever. You mean do the same thing that you did yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before? And then we go on our walk, our adventure, our hike. And what do my kids almost always say? I'm so glad we did this. This was so good. All right. So know that your kids are going to remember that and create those opportunities as they get older. But but making sure that they exist is important. All right. Another question was, how do you increase motivation in a high school senior? So, I bet you most of you really struggled, with that as a high school senior. Uh, I, you know, I just tried to make it through. I just, with when I was a senior, I told my dad, the second half of my senior year that I was going to quit high school and join the Coast Guard. Now, I'm not recommending you do what my dad did, although it worked. But you have to know your child. My father looked at me and he said with incredible conviction, John, that's probably not a bad idea, because quite frankly, I've come to believe that you're not college material. Now, he knew me really, really well, because that's quite a risk to take, right? To say something like that to your kid. So, of course I didn't join the Coast Guard, quit high school, join the Coast Guard. I got into college. I came back my very first semester, made the dean's list, took my grades, rubbed them in his nose and said, not college material, huh? And you know what that son of a gun did? He winked at me. So, but some kids want to be challenged, issue a challenge. Some kids are just going to need you to get side by side and support. There's this concept of something called the body double. And the body double is, you're just in the room with them while the work is happening. It's just as long as somebody is there, right? That can be helpful. Painting a vision for what adulthood is going to look like when you get to make choices, that are yours and on your own. But that's a tough one. That really is. Anybody else have any advice on how to handle motivating a high school senior? No? All right. All right, we have another one. My son has ADHD. He's also gifted. He's into games and screen time. Boredom is one of the biggest triggers leading to emotional dysregulation. How do I use screen time as a positive reinforcer to get him to engage other activities? All right, so we did this in our home, and it was we allowed for screen time to be what you earned, not what was taken away. And so if you completed your homework for the day and you had completed your chores and you had done something from a physical standpoint, then you earned 30 minutes or 2 hours of computer time. And because you start with nothing and then you get to earn the time that you have. And that is the easiest and best way to create a situation where you are asking for what you want instead of taking away something because you didn't get the thing that you were expecting. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for attending. It was an absolute pleasure. Next month, we're going to be taking on a really interesting topic. I'm going to be joined by one of my absolute favorite professionals in the field. He's a psychologist named Ari Tuckman, and we're going to talk about why they lie. And so why do kids lie? And then what can we do about it? So please join me next month, and we will get that out there to folks. I look forward to that opportunity, and I deeply appreciate all the hard work that all of you are doing to nurture and encourage incredible young people as they are becoming adults, nurturing them across the lifespan. Thanks so much for your time, and we will see you next month.